Do you know who Survivor Man is? Les Stroud. Have you ever heard of him?
Course.
Yeah. So he told a story once on a podcast, like literally years ago.
From Alaska.
He was in Alaska and he was talking about this crazy like primal sound he heard at night. But my question was like, other than the video footage, what is like the most compelling firsthand account that like you've heard of?
Patterson Gimlin.
But
Well,
I mean,
whenever I'm asked that, the one that comes to mind, and it's because of the opportunity to really get to know the witness, and hear the story.
Yeah.
It's and I'm not sure. I don't think she minds her name, but I'm having a senior moment anyway, so we'll leave it anonymous. Her name will pop back into my head here in any second, but
there is like someone.
Yes.
Like
so this woman was quite the outdoors woman and an amateur naturalist. She was a very credible woman. She worked in a law firm, and she had put herself through law school by teaching music. She was a musician.
Oh, wow.
And so she taught music lessons. She performed. She did storytelling and so forth. And realized after 10 years or so in this law firm that this wasn't the life she really wanted.
Oh, nice.
She was able to make a living doing what she really loved and being where she really liked to be. She, I mean, just to show you what a stalwart outdoors woman she was, she hiked the entire Continental Divide Trail.
Nice.
Colorado solo, just with a couple of goats, pack goats along. She was a pack goater, and or a goat packer. Maybe that's the proper.
I don't know if there's a correct term for it.
Yeah.
In any case, on one of her trips, she had a couple goats and she had a couple dogs along with her. She said even on that remote trail, she was bumping into more people than she really wanted to at that particular time. So she decided to take a break and go off trail. She noticed on her map some off trail lakes and nice meadow area. And so she hiked several miles off trail to that spot. Along the way, the dogs kept reacting to something in the trees and bristling and so forth. The goats are also very attentive. It's like llamas, goats, they make great watchdogs.
Yeah.
If they hear something or smell something, they zero in on it. You can just watch their eyes. Well, she got in, she set up her camp. She had the goats unpacked and everything and was feeding them. And the dogs kept barking off at she thought a bear maybe had been shadowing her. This is in an area of southern Colorado where they still have the ghost grizzlies, the mysterious grizzlies that are supposedly extinct but keep on showing up again.
Yeah, we've heard about those too.
As well as black bear.
Yeah.
And so she didn't want the dogs to tangle. She pulls them into the tent. She grabs a can of pepper spray and steps out, expecting maybe to confront a bear, because as she went to step out, she saw that the goats had crowded up right to the entrance of the tent. And so she steps out, turns around. Standing right behind her tent was an 8.5 foot tall Bigfoot.
Oh,
what?
8 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight.
Wow.
And she just froze, and it was looking at her, and she was looking at it. And she said it would glance every now and then down at the goats, like it thought these looked odd, wasn't familiar with them. But she said she even commented that there was a moment when she had this, and what she didn't claim it was mind speak or parapsychological, but just the impression of that you get with any animal when their body posture changes, and it's like, I won't hurt you if you won't hurt me.
Right.
And she said it just kind of softened the edges. And at that point, a second one peeked out around from behind her.
Wait, okay. Let's recap this. So This is an ex-lawyer is hiking the Continental Divide Trail
Section through Colorado. Solo with goats.
Do you know? Like, when did this happen?
Let me think. And her name is Julie Davis. Popped in my
Okay.
head.
All right.
Julie Davis.
Andy's Googling her right now.
Her story actually was featured. The Denver Post let their environmental correspondent do a 2-page spread on Sasquatch in Colorado, and he almost backed out, but the fellow pressed him a bit further and got it, and it was summarily ignored. It was just ignored. That's one of the strategies. Either you vehemently criticize something that you want when you want to discredit it, or you just ignore it as if it doesn't even exist. That's the tack most common around campus now. I mean, I'm kind of tolerated now much more than I was 10 years ago, but now it's just we won't even distinguish it, give it distinction by acknowledging it, basically.
That's something I want to get to later in this podcast, but this is a crazy story to me.
Wait,
and did she come? Like, how did you find out about this? This was
Because
obviously in the news.
She's good friends with a colleague of mine because of her goat packing.
Okay.
She is good friends with a person I work with in the field, John Mayenzinski, who essentially invented goat packing, or at least standardized it, commercial goat packing in the United States. So they were good friends and well acquainted and had been on lots of trips with clients together and so forth. And so he introduced me to her when we decided to do some work down in Colorado to look into some of the reports down there.
So this was 2003, I think Andy pulled it. Because I was like,
sounds about right.
Because I was like, we got smartphones, people. Take a picture.
Yeah.
But this was before that. So I was like, damn.
The article was written by Theo Stein.
Okay.
Theo Stein. And it was, a fantastic 2-page spread, which featured her experience. At first, she was going to remain anonymous, and they were going to change up the details just enough that she wouldn't be recognizable. But then the Wallace story broke. Ray Wallace and his death, and the claims by his family that they had used carved wooden feet to fake all these footprints.
Yeah.
That broke, and that created such a brouhaha that Julie said, "Hey, go back and rewrite the story and put my name in it. I'm going to stand for my story, because this was not a fake. I saw them. I know they exist. They're real, and people need to know that." So her story ran.
So was there any?
So like I said, I've heard her tell it, in her front room and across a campfire, and been able to ask her questions about it. And you can see the physical change, that the physical impact that the experience had on her at the time, as she relives it.
Wow.
Telling it. And, it's one thing to sit in your armchair and poo-poo an eyewitness. And you have to take eyewitness testimony with a huge grain of salt. But when you come to know the person, their skills, their knowledgeability, they're very knowledgeable of natural history and so forth. It puts it in a whole different category.
Did anybody ever go up to that spot and try to locate tracks or anything?
No, it was extremely remote, and it would be, kind of difficult. It's hard to find tracks. I always press witnesses myself with that kind of question, but while also acknowledging, either verbally or implicitly, there's a lot of terrain out there that just will not take a footprint, especially not the footprint of a soft padded foot without hooves or claws to make imprints. So no, she hasn't. She has sat down with a sketch artist.
Yeah, I saw some of the
Andy was
sketches.
pulling that up. Yeah.
Travers.
Yeah.
Travers has quite a project, and you might be able to find him online, where he has done sketches of a lot of different eyewitness descriptions. They're interesting to see.
It looks like Chewbacca a little bit.
It does a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the state. You have to you always have to take sketch artists' work with a grain of salt
Yeah.
too, because they tend to incorporate some of their own stylistic expression.
Yeah.
So one thing with Pete, you know, I kind of I don't know if I've ever criticized him to his face, but I've mentally criticized some of his sketches or drawings. They often look kind of blockish and rather short hind legs, lower legs, or legs versus upper extremity.
Yeah.
Till I saw a picture he drew with a Sasquatch standing next to a person, and the person was kind of blockish with disproportionately short.
That's pretty funny.
It was just the way he drew.
That's pretty funny.
So,
but in your eyes, this is like a good, like this is an eyewitness account that like you think is really legit based on what you know.
I mean, it's above reproach. She's above reproach.
Yeah.
And then you have that combined with excellent circumstances of observation. You know, for a lot of people, their glimpse is extremely fleeting, and it's just a flash of fur, and so that's why it sometimes is easy to overinterpret. You know, I was out with a group one time, and we flushed a black bear.
Right.
It went galloping away, but most of us only caught just a glimpse of it. And if you wanted to have a Bigfoot experience, that would have been the seed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
A flash of black fur just disappearing in the brush and the bushes wagging in at its passing. But she saw it in broad daylight, literally a distance of about 15 feet. If you can imagine, 15 feet looking up into the eyes of an 8.5 foot tall Sasquatch.
I couldn't imagine.
How